Today, in video 2 of Speak Spanish Like a Pro, we are going to be focusing on those pesky, unexpected questions that come up in the speaking exam that make us really, really nervous, but are actually really easy to answer when you know how. So why do you need to know this? Well, you will be asked a total of 4 unexpected questions in the speaking exam that are scripted and sent by the exam board. There are 2 after the read aloud task, and there are 2 after the picture task. Even though they are unexpected, there are patterns in the types of questions that get asked, so we can prepare for how we will answer certain types of questions in advance, so that when you're asked a question, you can identify, oh, this is that kind of question. I know how to answer this, what structure to use. It's also really good practice because you will be asked unexpected questions in the conversation. So this helps you to build confidence with knowing how to answer questions that you haven't prepared for in advance. They are marked, it's very straightforward. There are 2 marks per unexpected question, not the ones in the conversation, the ones after the read aloud and the ones after the picture. 2 marks if your response is fully communicated, 1 mark if it's partially communicated with a bit of ambiguity, and no marks if it's not clear. Okay, so when they say for 1 mark, when they say some ambiguity, that's usually around the verbs. If you give an answer and your verb is incorrect, but we know what you're saying and you can work it out, then you probably get 1 mark. To get the 2 marks, you want a short sentence that has a correct verb and answers the question that has been asked. If you give 1-word answers, you can do this. You will only get 1 mark maximum. So you cannot get 2 marks if you're only answering with 1 word. So the verbs are very important if you want to access 2 marks. And we'll have a look now at what we can do for that. So the type of question we're going to look at in this video is questions that use te gusta. Normally, que te gusta, but as you can see here, some of them have donde te gusta. And so I have these are example questions from past papers for Edexcel, and so we can see there's a wide variety of topics, but they all follow the same format, which is crucial. Okay, and hopefully the color coding will make this really easy, but I've tried to break down how you would then answer that kind of question. So the first thing, obviously, is that te gusta is the question, but in your answer, te gusta becomes me gusta, and you can see that in the example answer for number 1. Okay, and then we need to remember that me gusta is followed by an infinitive verb. If there is a location or a time in the question, you do not have to include that in your answer. You could still get 2 marks just for saying me gusta jugar al fútbol, for example. So adding al aire libre, which means outside, does not give you any additional points. But again, it's good practice for just constructing full sentences, and the word is there for you in the question, so all you have to do is put it at the start of your answer. Again, you don't have to do that. If that's too much for you, then you just leave that bit out. But so this question, ¿qué te gusta hacer al aire libre? What you like to do outside. My answer, outside, I like to play football. And it's that easy. Okay. Note that questions that use the verb hacer, and this comes up a lot. Hacer means to do. In English, if I ask you a question using to do, you are unlikely to use the verb do in your answer. So if I say, what are you going to do tonight? I am going to watch TV. Like, I don't have to use the verb do in my answer. I could use it. I could say, I'm going to do my homework. But when you have a question that is ¿qué te gusta hacer?, you are unlikely to repeat the word hacer in your answer. Instead, you do need to understand what the question is asking you to give your answer. Okay? So hopefully the color coding here is clear of how you convert what's in the question to your answer, how you structure your answer. So what I suggest you do now is you pause the video, you attempt to write a very short sentence to answer all of these questions, following my format for the answer in the right-hand column, and then when you're ready, you come back and I'll show you some suggested answers. If there's any vocabulary you do not know on this screen, take this time, as you have paused the video, to look up those words and write them down, Because if these are coming up in past paper questions, then they are vocabulary that exam boards are using regularly in their questions. So pause and come back when you're ready for the answers. Okay, so these are just my suggested answers. You do not have to have the same content, but you should have the same structure in terms of grammar. So number 2, ¿qué te gusta hacer en tu barrio? What do you like to do in your neighborhood? En mi barrio, me gusta ir al parque. So what you need to make sure you have is, after me gusta, the verb needs to be the infinitive. So ending in AR, ER, or IR. As long as you have that, and it's a sensible answer for what you like to do in your local area, that is fine. 3. ¿Qué te gusta hacer en línea? What do you like to do online? En línea, me gusta hablar con mis amigos. Again, you could have any answer, but if you're using en línea, it goes at the start, and after me gusta, we must have the infinitive. And hablar con mis amigos is a really easy answer. You should also remember that actually you never have to tell a truthful answer. You just have to tell an answer that you know how to say. ¿Qué te gusta hacer durante las vacaciones escolares? So what do you like to do during school holidays? Please note, escolar is not the noun for school. It is an adjective. So do not say en mi escolar. That is not possible. So, durante las vacaciones escolar, me gusta descansar. I like to rest. Again, as long as you say, if you said me gusta descansar, me gusta ir a la playa, whatever, fine. Make sure it's an infinitive after me gusta. ¿Qué te gusta hacer con tus amigos? What do you like to do with your friends? Me gusta hacer deporte con mis amigos. If I'm saying who I'm doing it with, I always put it at the end of the sentence. So I like doing sport with my friends. ¿Qué te gusta comer? Me gusta comer chocolate. So here now, because the verb in the question is not hacer, I can and should repeat it in my answer. So me gusta comer chocolate, pizza, gambas, whatever it is. 8. ¿Qué te gusta de tu colegio? So this de means about. So there will be not necessarily a verb in this question after me gusta. So me gusta la biblioteca would be enough to get me the full 2 marks. Porque es grande, because it's big. I've gone with the justification. It is not necessary, but you can. So just note that the que te gusta de, what do you like about? ¿Dónde te gusta ir de compras? So again, I've got a verb that I can and should repeat. Me gusta ir de compras en el centro comercial. So where do you like going shopping? I like going shopping in the shopping center. And finally, ¿dónde te gusta salir con amigos? Where do you like to go out? Salir with friends. And again, because the verb is not salir, I should repeat it in my answer. Or I could. So I actually haven't here. Me gusta ir al cine con mis amigos. I could say me gusta salir en mi ciudad. Salir might be a funny verb there. I like to go out in my city with friends. So like I said, I could repeat salir, but it would change slightly how I answer the question. So I've just gone easier. Me gusta ir al cine con mis amigos. I like to go to the cinema with my friends. Obviously, the more you understand of the question, the easier it is to form your answer. But hopefully you can see that that is a really, really simple, straightforward format for answering te gusta questions. So top tips, te gusta becomes me gusta in the answer. Tú and tus becomes me or mis. If the verb in the question after te gusta is hacer, you are unlikely to repeat this verb in your answer. If the verb in the question after te gusta is not hacer, you should most likely repeat it in your answer. And one-word answers will not get you 2 marks, but they are better than saying nothing if your mind blanks. Okay, and that's it. I will see you next week for the next set of unexpected questions. Hasta la próxima semana.